Welcome to today's session. So in today's session we are going to be hosting two EC2 instances. One would be in public subnet and the other one would be the private subnet. So in the previous session we had configured VPC where we had created a custom VPC. We established three subnets. One is a public subnet. The other two are private subnets. So I have the configuration with me. So let me go to VPC first. Let me check if the VPC is appropriately configured and the settings are prevailing. Go to your VPC. So I have to go to my region, Ohio. Switching to Ohio region. So go to my VPC. We would be able to see the VPC we had configured. So the latest VPC I have configured is custom VPC2. So I can go inside the VPC. I can check the IDs are all given appropriately. So the main route tables route is here. Okay. So now let's go to the subnets. Let's check if we have config. Yeah, I have the subnet configured in public subnet. The first one is the public one. The second subnet is the private one. And the third one is the private one again. So how do we make a subnet public or private? So we have to click the subnet. So go to subnet. Click on the subnet. Go to actions. Edit subnet settings. So if I would want the subnet to be public one, then I have to enable auto assign IPv4 address. So I have in fact enabled it. I'm not going to change it. So first we have to go to create subnet. If you are about to create a subnet, in fact I already have it, but just to tell you how to create a subnet, go to create subnet, choose this VPC under which you want the subnet to get identified, and we'll have to give the name of the subnet here, the preferred zone. For the current subnet I had gone with 2A. So the IPv4 VPC CIDR block is given. We have to select the block of the subnet. So 192.168.3.192 say. So 26. So 26 bits are borrowed from the host ID. So with this we can switch to the subnets. Okay, so this way we can see the other options with which we can create the CIDR block ID. So quickly go ahead with create subnet. We would be able to create the subnet then. So this way we can perform as many number of subnets I want. So as far as the lab is concerned, I had gone with 3 subnets. So I had created the public. So you can see in the private subnet, I'm gonna go edit subnet settings. I haven't enabled the auto assign public IP address, which means this particular subnet is going to be in a private subnet, which is in private mode. It is not going to be having access through the internet. So again, with that, I have one more subnet which is also going to be having the same feature. I am not going to enable the auto assign IP over here again. I haven't done it. So let's okay. Now we have to go to the route table and we have to go create a route table. Here we have to give the name of the route table. We have to give the subnet's name. So let's say MRT. So let's say create route table. So this will be creating the route table, and here we have to edit the routes. So before doing that, we have to go to the route table which we just created. So let me just go and see. Yeah, so we have it here. So we have something called subnet association here. click on that, edit subnet association. So we would be getting the subnets that we had just created. So I have the public subnet, private subnet, two private subnets. So the two private subnets has to be associated with each other for this current laboratory. The public subnet is automatically directed to the main route table, and I'm going to associate these two subnets to work together in the route table. So if I go with save association, this is going to save the associate these two subnets for me to enable the communication. So I'm not going to do that. I have already done it. So if I go to the route table, so I have the route table here which already has the associations of two subnets. So if I click on to this route, and if I click on to the subnet associations, I can see the subnets which are associated with each other, the subnet 2 and subnet 3. And this is the explicit association, which is the public subnet, and that's how it shows us. So the route table is configured, the subnet is configured, and hence the VPC is also ready for us. Now I'm gonna go to EC2. Let me go to the instances. So I already have the instances running, and I have already configured the VPC, the subnets, and all those network features to establish, to enable the uh, to launch the EC2, to connect the EC2 Windows instance here. So let me quickly tell you how to launch it. I'm not going to launch it, but let me tell you the configurations here. So here, let's give an example. Let's say ABC is my instance name. Select Windows here. So you can go ahead with creating a new key pair, or you can either choose a existing one. So here in the network settings, go to edit. From the VPC, choose the custom VPC2 which we just configured, and here the first subnet should be in public, and hence I've given the name here for us to understand, and it's gonna be in 2A zone, and the CIDR block is reflected here. So choose this. You can see the auto assign public IP is enabled by default, but if you hadn't enabled it in the edit subnet settings, then we may have to enable it here. So we have two options here. We can either disable it from here even, but we're gonna be hosting this in the public subnet, so let it be enabled. So we can go with creating a new security group or existing one. So just make sure if you're going ahead with the existing one, we'll have to select the security group, and then we have to go to the network security group settings, and we should enable RDP because this is Windows AMI, and we have to establish the connection with RDP, remote desktop protocol. So if it is Linux, then we have to go with SSH. But as it's Windows, we have to enable RDP and HTTPS if we are planning to host any web pages. So I'm not going to do that. I had already done the configuration. So without any configurations further, I can just go ahead with launch. The instance would get launched. So this is how we launch an instance in public subnet. Now let's launch an instance in private subnet. So to do that, again go to the instances, give the name of the instance, let's say ABC2, select the Windows AMI, create a new key pair or go ahead with existing key pair. And now in the network settings, we have to select the custom VPC 2, and the subnet has to be the private one. So for my configuration, I had gone with subnet 2, which is a private one. So if I click on this, I have to disable the IP here, which means this particular instance, which is hosted in a private subnet, is not going to be accessible by the external internet, or it's not going to have any access to the external internet. It's a private subnet. I cannot host the remote desktop protocol even. So with that, let's go with selecting an existing group. Obviously it should be having RDP protocol enabled in it, and quickly we can go ahead with launching the instances. So as I had already done it, let me quickly go to the instances. So you can see here the instance 1, instance 2 are running, and the pass check is also all done. Now let me go to the first instance, connect the first instance, download the remote desktop file, keep it. So get the password, upload the private key, decrypt the password. So copy the password, go to downloads, open the remote desktop file, keep the password, establish the connection. So the remote desktop is getting loaded, and we can see the private IP of my remote desktop is 18.116.20.94. Okay, so this remote desktop is already enabled, so I had configured it just now, so it is getting popped up when you're logging into the desktop. So let me disconnect it and show you how to get connected to the private subnet. Now we wouldn't be able to connect with the RDP because it doesn't have any IP address. It has got its own private address. So how do we access it? So we can access it from the public IP of this public subnet. So let's go to remote desktop. Open remote desktop. Okay, so we have to copy the IP addresses of the private subnet instance, the subnet which is hosted in the private subnet. So let me click on this instant and see, I don't have the public IP here, so I cannot establish the connection directly from here. So all I can do is copy the private IP, go to the desktop, paste it here, which is already done, go ahead with connect. It would ask us for the credentials to proceed. Obviously the same credentials we had been giving for the public, so but we are giving it through the public subnet or the public instance. So for that we have to connect the second instance, go to RDP, get the password, upload the private key of the second instance. So I have it here, instance 2. So decrypt the password, copy the password, go to the desktop, paste the password here, click OK. Now we can see, so how do we cross verify if we have successfully launched the instance? So your first desktop image should be from your private subnet, and the second desktop image should be from the first should be from the public subnet, which is having the public IP, and the second is from the private subnet, which is having the private IP, which is 192.168.3.104. So that's how we establish the connection. Okay. So this, let me minimize this. Yeah. So the instance 1 is having 18.116.20.94, which is the public IP, and we have one more instance here. So let me maximize this. Okay, so we have the other instance here. The second instance, which is hosted in private subnet 192.168.3.104. So that's how we establish connection between private subnet and a public subnet. And this is how private subnet works, and that's how the public subnet works. So see you all in next session. Thank you. Bye bye.